Hello, good evening. In this video, we are going to define the right of the individual in the Indian constitutions and on to the process of defining the right of the people, the different people from the different category of backgrounds having the multiple will, and those will are entirely traceable in the country itself. So the need was to create a political framework in which the minority could live in the harmony with other and the difference between community could be also minimized. So only separate electorate can give their voice in the session of the constitution's making 1947. We Pokers decide that the Muslim people and especially the minority people should have the separate voting right, but only the separate electorate would ensure that Muslim had a meaningful voice in the government of the country, and the need of Muslim Bahadur felt could not be properly understood by the non-Muslim, and nor could be a true representative of Muslims be chosen by the people who did not belong to the community. So this demand for separate electorates provoked the anger and the dismay among most nationalists. So in the passionate debate that followed, a range of argument and were offered against the demand. So most nationalists saw separate electorates as a measures and deliberately introduced by the British to divide the people. So this the English play their game under the cover of the safeguard. The R.P. Dulekars told the Bahadur with the help of its they elude you to long lull. So give up, no, there is no one to misguiding you. So partisans had made the India and Pakistan separated, and so they were haunted by the fear of continuing the civil war. So the riot and violence separate the electorate was a poison that had entered the body and politics of our country. So they declared the Sardar Patel, it was demand that had turned one community against the another and divided the nation and caused the bloodshed and led to the tragic partitions of the country. So do you want peace in this land? So I do with the separate electorate, and the British element is gone, but they have left the mischief behind. That's Sardar Patel told in the Indian Constitution. So country that demand the separate electorate, Govind Vallabh Pant declared that it was not only harmful for the nation but also for the minority. So he agreed with the Bahadur just that the success of the democracy was to be judged by the confidence it generated among the different section of the people. So he argued to the every citizens in a free state and should be treated in a manner that satisfied not only his material want but also his spiritual sense of self-respect, and that the majority community had an obligation to try and understand the problem of minority and empathize with their aspirations. Yet Pant opposed the idea of separate electorate, and it was societal demand. And he argued that that would be permanently isolate the minority and make them vulnerable and deprive them of any effective and safety in the government. Behind all these arguments was the concern with the making of unified nation state. So in order to build a political unite and forge a nation, every individual had to be molded into citizen of the state, and each group had to be assimilated within this nation. So constitution would grant to citizens right, but citizen had to offer their loyalty to the state. Community could be recognized as the cultural entity and assure the cultural right. Politically, however, member of the community had to act as an equal member of the state, and else there would be divided loyalty. So there is the unwholesome and the divided loyalty. There is the unwholesome to same extent and regretting habit of thinking always in term of community and the never in term of citizens. So say the Panth, and let us remember that it is the citizens that must count. It is the citizen that form the base as well as the summit of the social pyramid. Even as the importance of the community right was being recognized, and there was a lurking fear among many nationalists that they may lead to divide the loyalty and make the difficult for the strong nation and a strong state itself. So not all Muslims supported the demand for separate electorate, but Begum Ijaz Rasool, just like for instance, felt that the separate electorate were self-destructive and since they isolate the minority from the majority by 1949. Most Muslim members of the Constituent Assembly were talking about, but instead Muslim needed to take an active part in the democracy, pursue, ensure that has a decisive voice in the political systems. So that is also discussed here. So now we will need much more than the resolution, while the reclaiming the objective resolution. Anji Ranga, a socialist who had been a leader of the peasants movement, urged that the term minority be interpreted in the economic terms. So the real minority for Ranga were the poor and the downtrodden. He welcomed the legal right and the constitution was granting to each individual, but pointed to its limit. In this opinion, it was meaningless for the poor people in the village to know that they now have the fundamental right to live and to have the full employment, or that they could have their meeting, so their conference, their association, and the various other civil liberty. It was essential to create the condition where this constitutionally enshrined right could be effectively enjoyed. So for this they needed protections, and they need props, and they need a ladder, and say the Ranga is talking about it. Ranga also drew attentions to the Gulf, and that separated the broad mass of the Indian and those claiming to speak on their behalf in the Constituent Assembly, whom are we proposed to represent, and the ordinary mass of our country, and yet most of us do not belong to the masses. So we are of them, and we wish to stand for them, but the masses themselves are not able to come up the Constituent Assembly. So it may take some time in the meaningful, but we are here as their trustee, as their champion, and we are trying to our best to speak for them. One of the group mentioned by the Ranga as the tribal had among the representative to the assembly and the gifted orator Jaipal Singh in welcoming the objective resolution. Singh said, as the Adivasi, I am not expected to understand the legal intricacy of the resolution, but my common sense tell me that every one of us should march in the road to freedom and fight together. Sir, if there is any group of Indian people that has been savagely treated, it is my people, and they have been disgracefully treated, neglected for the last 6,000 years. So the whole history of my people is one of continuous exploitations and dispossession by the non-Aboriginals of India, and punctuated by the rebellions and the disorder. And yet I take the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru at his word, and I take you all your word that now we are going to start a new chapter. A new chapter of independent India, where there is equality of opportunity, where no one would be neglected. Singh spoke eloquently on the need to protect the tribe and ensure the condition that could help them come up to the level of the general populations. Tribe were not a numerical minority, and he argued, but they needed the protection. They had been dispossession of the land, and they had settled. deprive of the forest and the pasture and forced to remove the search of new home, perceiving them as a primitive and backward. The rest of society had turned away from them. Spurned them, he made a moving plea for breaking the emotional and physical distance that separated the tribal from the rest of society. Our point is that you have got to mix with us. We are willing to mix with you. And Singh was not asking for separate electorate, but he felt that reservation of seat in the legislature was essential to allow the tribals to represent themselves. It would be a way, he said, in compelling others to hear the voice of the tribals and come near them. So we were suppressed for thousands of years. However, the right of the depressed caste to be defined by the constitutions. So during the national movement, Ambedkar had demanded the separate electorate for depressed caste, and the Mahatma Gandhi had opposed it. So arguing that this would the permanently segregate them from the rest of the society. So how could the Constituent Assembly resolve the oppositions, and what kind of the protections were the depressed caste to be provided? So some member of the depressed caste emphasizes that the problems of the untouchable could not be resolved through the protections and safeguard alone. So their disability were caused by the social norm and the moral value of caste society. Society has used their services and the labor but kept them at a social distance. So refusing to mix with them or dine with them or allow them into the temples. We have been suffering, but we are prepared to suffer no more, said J. Nagappa from the Madras constituency. We have realized our responsibility, and we know how to assert ourselves. So Nagappa pointed out that numerically and the depressed caste were not a minority. So they form between the 20 to 25% of the total population, and their suffering was due to their systematically marginalization, not their numerical insignificance. They had no access to education, no share in the administration. Addressing the assembly, and the K.J. Khandekar of the Central Province said that we were suppressed for the thousands of years, suppressed to such an extent that neither our mind nor our body, nor even our hard work, nor we able to match forward. This is a positions. After partition violence, the Ambedkar to no longer argue for separate electorates. So the Constituent Assembly finally recommended untouchability be abolished, Hindu temple be thrown open to all castes, seat in the legislature and job in the government office be reserved for the lowest caste. Many recognized that this could not solve all problems. Social discrimination could not be erased only through constitutional legislation. There had to be change in the attitude within the society, but the measures were welcomed by the democratic politics. So here we stop, and in the next video we are going to talk about the power of the state in the concept of the Indian Constitution. Thank you everyone.